was honestly just so heartbreaking to see because in that moment, she just looked so defeated. And Caitlin Clark is somebody, you know, she hides it really well. And I don't know if hiding it or she handles it is probably the right thing to say. She's never battled injuries in college. She's always been something who has been a very healthy player. And this year it has been quad injury and then another quad injury and then a groin injury and now what seems to be another groin injury. She handles the pressure. She handles all of the media spotlight, the attention, the expectations of how she performs on the court, the expectations of the ratings for her games.
Caitlin Clark was in tears on the bench, grabbing at her groin, visibly in pain. But moments later, she was back on the court fueling a comeback. How did she keep fighting? And could this valiant performance come back to haunt her? You need to hear this story. Caitlin Clark isn't unfamiliar with adversity. The pressure, the spotlight, the expectations. But what happens when it's her own body that starts to fight back?
Caitlin Clark seems to have re-injured her groin. So as you guys can see here, she is dribbling down, she plants her foot, she passes the ball to Kelsey Mitchell on the back door. And then when she is running back on the other end of the court, it seems like she's grabbing her groin area. She is fighting back tears and she walks straight over to the bench. Now, when she goes over to the bench, she starts crying. And I've honestly never seen Caitlin Clark cry on the court except when she lost the national championship game. But this was honestly, I'm not going to share this whole clip because I don't know how much she wants the video of her basically crying on the court to be circulated around.
In last night's game against the Connecticut Sun, all eyes were on her, but not for the reasons we're used to. Early on, she was visibly struggling, grabbing at her groin, wiping away tears on the bench. It wasn't the picture of the unstoppable player we've come to expect. And yet, there she was, pushing through every second she was on the court. Her stat line tells part of the story. 14 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. Not bad on paper, but let's not ignore the glaring one for 7 from three-point range. When's the last time Caitlin looked this out of rhythm?
This play in the game was with under 1 minute left in the game against the Connecticut Sun. I'm going to go into some of the clips that are going viral right now. There are multiple moments in this game that were so egregiously called, or there was no calls by the referees. Now, they were winning by, I believe, 8 points at the time, so I guess the Sun could have came back. But every time the Indiana Fever plays the Connecticut Sun, it is a very, very physical game, and it's getting out of control at this point.
Frustration bubbled over throughout the game, too. At one point, she turned to a referee and bluntly snapped, "Grow up." That's not what you usually hear from her mid-game, but it speaks volumes about her mindset right now. Was it purely frustration over the calls, or was it a sign of something deeper going on? Fever head coach Stephanie White made a bold decision too, sitting Clark down right after she made a basket. Momentum plays a huge role in games like this.
She has been on minutes restriction for the last few games, and I've always been a bit confused by that because I did not understand why the Fever would bring her back if she was injured at all. Even Caitlin Clark's brother tweeted, "This one is on the refereeing." Like, there are people in Caitlin Clark's family who are starting to call out the referees because of how bad they have been. Now, I feel like Caitlin Clark, she is your star player. She's having an injury that is jumping. It's not one that is just staying in one area. It's jumping from quad to groin and now to another groin.
So was that the right call? Some might say it gave Clark a needed breather, but others might argue it disrupted the flow she was finally starting to find. Adding Arie McDonald into the mix doesn't seem to help Clark's rhythm on the floor either. The two star guards still look like they're figuring out their spacing and flow together, which raises questions about whether this pairing is holding the team back. Even though the Fever came out with a win, it's hard to celebrate when your biggest star is showing signs of wearing down. Could she already be playing hurt this entire season? If so, what toll is that taking? Not just physically, but mentally. And now, with All-Star Weekend just days away, the real concern becomes whether she'll even be ready to compete. This might have been a victory, but it's starting to feel more like a warning. How do you go from tears on the bench to leading a furious fourth-quarter rally?
She came back, I believe, a little over 2 weeks being out, and I originally thought that they were going to keep her out through All-Star. As heartbreaking as that would be, like, just don't even let her play in the All-Star game. You can't mess around with injuries that are moving around your body because it means that mechanically something something isn't tracking right, something is not working properly. Groins are something that are just so finicky, but they're also things that can lead to bigger injuries. So I just hope that the Indiana Fever's medical staff I just hope that they have the top of the line people in there for her.
It still feels impossible to explain, but Caitlin Clark made it happen. Let's rewind to the fourth quarter, where things looked like they could spiral for the Fever. The momentum wasn't quite there. The team was struggling to close gaps defensively, and Clark herself hadn't been her usual self all game. Then, out of nowhere, the energy shifted. Was it adrenaline, pure determination, or something else entirely? You could feel the change in the air as Clark came out and started impacting every corner of the game, even while visibly dealing with pain. Her scoring might not have stood out.
She is a multi-million dollar, I could even argue a billion-dollar basketball player. You need to have the top of the line people in for Caitlin Clark, and if they're not going to handle it, then she needs to get an NBA staff to work on her. She needs to get her own medical staff, and so she needs the top of the line people just making sure that she is good. You don't want to see an injury like this escalate into something where it turns into something that's actually torn.
She still couldn't hit from deep, but her hustle plays and leadership were on full display. A clutch assist here to set up Natasha Howard. A pivotal rebound there, keeping the play alive for Sophie Cunningham to knock down a jumper. Clark didn't just will herself to be effective, she chose how to be effective when her usual weapons weren't working. Compare that to Kelsey Mitchell and Natasha Howard, who complemented that fourth quarter surge by taking full advantage of the space Clark created. Mitchell's shooting helped keep the Sun on their heels, while Howard was carving out key buckets in the paint. Cunningham, meanwhile, hit shots when they mattered most, keeping the defense honest. But here's the thing. The common thread in all of this was Clark's presence. She might not have dropped 30 points, but her energy, her court vision, and even just the fact that she was out there battling seemed to be what her teammates needed.
She's never battled injuries in college. She's always been something who has been a very healthy player. And this year it has been quad injury, and then another quad injury, and then a groin injury, and now what seems to be another groin injury. Now, they were winning by, I believe, 8 points at the time, so I guess the Sun could have came back, but every time the Indiana Fever plays the Connecticut Sun, it is a very, very physical game. Groins are something that are just so finicky, but they're also things that can lead to bigger injuries. So I just hope that the Indiana Fever's medical staff I just hope that they have the top of the line people in there for her.
Still, you wonder how much of that was sheer willpower. Her shooting slump didn't magically disappear. Instead, she adapted in ways we don't usually expect from an injured player. It makes you think of what Scott Agnes highlighted after the game. Clark's frustration and persistence weren't just about the score, but about proving something. As the All-Star weekend approaches, though, that raised another question. Can she keep this up, or is she on borrowed time? Caitlin Clark gave everything she had in that fourth quarter, and it worked. The Fever walked away with a gritty win. But at what cost? Watching her hobble through portions of the game, grabbing her groin and fighting tears, it's hard to shake the feeling that her body is telling her something loud and clear. Now, with All-Star Weekend just around the corner, the bigger questions remain. Can she keep pushing like this? Or is it time to hit the brakes? The Fever got their win, but if Clark's health takes a dive, this season might start looking a whole lot different.